All right, citizens of Seattle just lost the best thing they had going for them in terms of law and order. Chief of Police Carmen Best, a veteran police officer who's worked narcotics and patrol, even a military vet, who's worked her way up, seen the streets, done everything imaginable, and was selected in 2018 to become the chief of police of the city of Seattle, a very diverse police agency already. And she, as a black woman, the first black woman police chief in the city of Seattle, she's tendered her resignation, and I don't blame her. Following the way that the mayor was pulling her strings, keeping her from being able to do her job as the chief law enforcement officer in that city to serve the citizens, which she so dearly attempted to do, to back her police officers in effecting lawful arrests and making sure they had the tools to do so. The city council and the mayor restricted her actions all along. She not only appealed to them, but she even actually defied an order when things got bad enough. Even though she wasn't supposed to use tear gas, it was like she gave the green light to use tear gas. And again, I think everybody has seen over and over again how the media played down the supposed lawful protesters that were coming out to play at night, that were the same type of individuals that took over the East Precinct, that tried to did light fires to numerous police officers, cars, and then in some instances, actually, there was one incident. Well, of course, if you guys seen the gun snatcher video, where the individual working security on behalf of one of the news stations actually recovered a couple of AR-15 rifles from one of the looters who was busy firing them indiscriminately at one point. That is just amazing. To suggest there's no risk to the law enforcement officers, the citizens, is absurd. If you saw the one individual, Ramon, who was Simone, pardon me, who was busy handing out rifles. I mean, we've got video footage, right? And some people have seen that video footage of this guy passing rifles out to people that have no business handling a rifle, and not just any rifle, AR-15 style rifle, which is a military style rifle by everybody else's understanding. Of course, in reality, it's just a semi-automatic rifle, but that's another discussion. And he himself wandering around with an AK-47. Some of the violence we witnessed there, where one of my teams was busy escorting an individual and his group through the Chads. They wanted to see it for themselves, and of course they come across a unclothed Caucasian individual that's just being physically abused by an African American individual. When they called attention to it, the individual approached them, told them not to be filming, not to have any action, and indicated he had a firearm. They created a screen around the protected parties, and then of course they tried to keep that individual back and ended up basically cold cocking. But nobody cared while this guy was busy abusing this mentally disabled man. But all of a sudden, people cared when he, the assaulter, ended up having an altercation that put him to the ground. It's just a messed up, mixed up world that was created there. No summer of love, and the individuals that the rapes that occurred there, the numerous assaults that occurred there. Of course, you guys have heard in the news the 4 different shootings with 2 deaths that occurred there. Some of the it became a play place for felons and for others. I saw people climbing up people's buildings, the painting, the restrictions done. We observed a supposed peaceful protest where every intersection between the Cal Anderson Field and the West Precinct, these individuals come in the middle of the square, or pardon me, of the intersections, block all the traffic, do their little chant, move on. And they got finally to the West Precinct, and they had their little spiel. We observed before they arrived there, all the law enforcement cars cleared out. According to the mayor, they didn't want confrontation. They gave them lots of space. But you know what? They still vandalized the front of that place anyway. They didn't just come and say their words and left. They had to make sure they left graffiti. During that time, we watched a number of African Americans that came out and protested the protesters, saying things like, "Hey, we built this city, and you guys are tearing it down." And yet, what happens is Mayor Durkin and the city council, again, keeping the law enforcement doing their job. And then, of course, we got Carmen Best, who not only appeals to have the authority to take action, she wants to take action, she wants to keep her officers safe, and you need the tools to do so. she was restricted at every turn, and now even cutting the budget and cutting her salary. And as she said, it's not about the money; it's about the disrespect for the officers. And if we want to have good people in the law enforcement community, we need to treat them with respect. This whole thing of the idea that there's this rampant discrimination, of all places, Seattle, really one of the most diversified police departments in the country, led by a African American woman, and you want to say that there's some racial inequality? Carmen Best is a huge example of phenomenal law enforcement, regardless of race. She's somebody that had the backs of her people as much as she could under the circumstance of and the oppression that she was put under by her Democratic leadership. In Seattle. And by the way, our Governor Jay Inslee, who seemed like he wasn't even aware of what's going on with the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. I mean, that's laughable. Where was he? Where were the state police to assist with backing up those problems and backing up those citizens? Those citizens that live in that area have a huge grievance. And again, started to say that I saw citizens that were calling it out, and it was amazing how the number of the protesters would come over and try and intimidate them and silence them. So freedom of speech only works one way, right? For them, and that's not the case. That freedom of speech only works one way. If freedom of speech is what it is, then it should be free for everybody to speak. And Carmen Best was fantastic about saying, hey, citizens of Seattle, we're not going to be able to protect you. We're not going to be able to provide the services that we normally would because we've been restricted, and now they're restricted more. To lay off the large number of police officers, that's disgraceful. And the thing that also is keep in mind, if you're in Seattle or any other community, how often when there is a tax increase is it one of two things? Education, often schools. The other thing though is your emergency services, law enforcement and fire and EMS services, ambulance services, Medic One type services. Those are always the things that are pushed out when it comes time for the tax increase. If I was you, Seattle, I'd be asking for a rebate on my taxes because you're not getting what you paid for, and you're not getting what those men and women who are there in Seattle are willing to provide if they are able to do so. But again, when you have a very restrictive mayor and a restrictive city council with individuals on it that clearly hate this country, and one that's not even a citizen from what I understand, it's like and leading the march, Mayor Jenny Durkin didn't take any action when that fellow city council person led everybody into the city hall, didn't care when this person was involved in a number of the activities involving the rioters, and basically enticing them to some kind of call of action to do destruction within the city of Seattle. She only cared when they started to show up to her own home and neighborhood. But did she care when these people showed up to your neighborhood if you lived around the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone? Apparently not. She's more important than you are in her mind. But she doesn't remember that she works for the citizens of the city of Seattle. Or does she? Because apparently she hasn't been doing a very good job of that. But one person that has, and regrettably is resigning, is Carmen Best. I am sorry for you, city of Seattle, that you have to go through this transition. I am hopeful that the city of Seattle will recover, but it's not going to be easy. And we've seen in other cities across the country where law enforcement has been restricted and held back, and not to harp on Democrat individuals, but there's some extreme leftist mentalities, and people have been being left behind to deal with the aftermath of these individuals' inaction for political purposes or whatever the justification is that they're pulling back the resources of law enforcement. It is highly unfortunate, highly unfortunate. So anyway, good luck, Seattle. I saw something that went around earlier saying rest in peace, Seattle. City of Seattle, I hope it can get back to the glory it was. One of the most beautiful cities in the country, certainly the most beautiful city in the Northwest at one time. But it's been a long time with the way it's been run before. Over the last however many years that since I've decided it was a good place to bring visitors down to downtown Seattle, or take my family downtown Seattle. Yeah, Pike's Place Market sparingly and a few things sparingly, but the city of Seattle is not the place it used to be. but I hope it can become that great place again. Make your vote count this fall, and let's hope for some positive change. Get it back to the glory of what the city used to be. What a beautiful place. Let's make it that again. All right, take care, and keep pressing forward.